All right. In OOP, another thing that is a well-known concept and is often used maybe in some other languages more than Python, but it's the concept of getters and setters. So often we need to modify an instance variable outside. So let's say we have a class that defines a person. And this person, let's say when they're created, we only want to care about their age and when they die. So this is, let's say, some bookkeeping function that creates a person when they're born, and then keep like a census type thing. Okay, so right now, if I create a person, so let's say Alice. Oops. And then I can print out Alice's age. So Alice.age. Oops, this was supposed to be just regular age here. Okay, so that is not the right program. Python 3, getters and setters. There we go. So Alice's age is 0 because we haven't really done anything. So let's say our program needs to modify this person's age from outside of the function. So we're not creating a specific method that will increment it. We're just gonna say Alice.age equals 19. And then if we print it out, we get 19. So we were able to modify the actual instance just by setting it here. But sometimes as our applications get more complex, we might need to have some extra rules on how these properties are set and how they're updated. So if our class is well designed according to OOP principles, such as encapsulation and abstraction, these rules should be described in the class itself. So just a reminder, encapsulation is having only the variables that person needs available to them. So you don't need to carry around extra information. Also keeping things where like having rules around how a person can update these attributes. So, so how can we do that? We can obviously create a function, but we can't really force a person to not use this, right? How can we modify what happens when we do this? So this, we would have to define something called a getter and a setter. So a getter is going to allow you to get the variables, and then a setter will allow you to set the variable, and you can modify specific some of the functionality. So I'll show you what I mean here. So let's say I want to create a getter. I want to create a way of accessing this person's age. So here's my getter. And to use a getter, we have to use a decorator called property. This is where decorators are coming in again. And we define a function with the same name as the attribute that I want to access from outside. So I create, self. And let's say I'm going to print out getter method called. And then I want to return this age. So this is going to be an issue since these are the same name, right? So typically when we create a getter and we have this property name here, we put an underscore over here. So this is going to be only for internal use. So I am going to return self dot underscore age. So I set this getter. This will allow me to return this, but also do something else. So for this specific getter, I just wanted to print out that the getter method was called. So I can't set the age attribute because I created a property for this age and I only created a getter for it. I didn't make a setter, so I'm not able to set this. So this is automatically going to help you, what is it called? Block anyone from editing a certain variable if you don't want them to, or a certain attribute. Leo, property is to modify this and make it a property. So it takes this function and it executes what's inside, but this now becomes a property. So I can assign to that property like this. We still haven't seen how to make a setter yet, so this is not going to work right now. But property makes it a property that we can access through the instance. So it makes it an instance variable, an instance attribute, basically. So when I'm running this, the getter method was called and it returned my age. So this is great. So now we saw if I was trying to do .age equals 19, it says that it's not you can't set the attribute. So we're not allowing people to set it yet. And to fix that, there's another decorator. This is going to look a little different. So the first part of the decorator is going to be the name of the property that we set. So .age, or sorry, at age, and then we do .setter. So this is going to define the setter of that function. So if I do this, it will have to have the same name as well as this. So here it's age, here also has to be age. It's going to take self as well, because this age is tied to a certain instance, but it's also going to take a variable. So when we're trying to set it, this has to go somewhere, right? So this is going to go into a variable. So new age. And then we can say, then we have to set this one equal to the new age because this is the internal age that we're keeping track of everything. And so self dot underscore age equals new age. And then let's say if in our program, if a person's age is, is greater than 150, then we just pronounce them dead. A little morbid, but let's see, dead equals true. Okay. So now this one wasn't running before, but if I run it again, because I set my setter here and I run it, now I'm able to actually set the age and then grab it using the getter. So if I wanted to make sure that the setter is getting called, we can say calling setter. So it calls the setter over here when it's on this line, then it jumps to this line, it calls the getter method, and then it returns the age. questions on this.
So because you didn't have like an at property for dead, you can still just mute, or you can still just change it from within the age setter.
Exactly. And I could actually change it from outside here too. So
Right.
yeah, Alice dot dead equals true. And that shouldn't give me any errors. So yeah, so it printed true for me. If I didn't put this here, it should print false. If I try to set the age to 154 or 53, then it's set to true for dead.
So because
Okay.
you were able to reassign inside that setter function, I guess it also allows you to set it outside via like line 23, because you called it out on line 17.
Yeah, so I'm able to, I can access it from in here if I had if I had a getter and a setter for dead as well, and this was the internal variable, I would have to name it the same thing. But I can access it without it because yes, I did not set a property on it. So this just becomes a regular instance variable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So getters and setters just allow a little bit more control over how you're able to retrieve and set the variables that you want.
I have a question. How does property know that it's like responsible for the self.age? Self.underscore age. It's because you named it age?
So it knows that, so when I name it age, this is the name that I'm going to be able to use it from outside. The thing that ties it to the underscore age is this line here. So this is actually grabbing the internal age and then returning. So if I wanted to, let's say, have a property called like birth date or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, or age, and all I had in here was a birth date. I could have this property age, and then I can return the calculated birth date, the calculated age or something like that. So you can set this property regardless of, I think I'm confusing it more.
Yeah, so actually the definition name doesn't matter. And even for the setter, the definition name doesn't matter either, right? You just, because you're above it, you're saying, well, age setter for that one, and then you're returning the self.age. So that's how it's controlling that. So the name doesn't matter.
Yeah, so if I call the name only matters because that will be the name that it will be used outside. So if I name this, give me another like something, I don't know.
Something, yes.
Thing. Okay, so because I named it something here, that means when I'm creating the setter, I also have to use that same name here, because that will determine the setter for this property. And then if I want to use it out here, so if I run this, oh wait, it worked. Why did it work? So something.
I think it's because it's still controlling the age here. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go. Age is not.
Yeah.
You already changed it before? I don't know. No, that's all right.
No. That's weird behavior that I didn't know. Okay. So now it says that it doesn't know what it is. I don't know why it was.
You're creating it. You're basically you're creating a new attribute. Is that what's happening?
I'm assuming. I don't think that's how it works though. I don't think you're able to, like, if I said Alice, oh my god.
Dot feet dot equals 2, right?
Yeah.
And you're just doing that. You're just creating it for.
Yeah, and then if I print, it might work. If it does, this is a new, oh man.
You're just creating it.
This is
That's why I was working.
yeah, this is a new feature that I did not know existed. So you can create these things on the fly from here.
That actually brings up Daniel's comment in the chat.
Yeah.
What's preventing us from doing a underscore age equals 10?
Nothing.
Right, okay, okay. I thought so too, yeah.
Yeah, nothing. So if I do like here underscore age, since that already exists up here, this one's gonna cause, I should probably delete that. Okay. Oh, this is for this error. Yeah, so I was able to just access it. And then if I wanted to access it down here, it would have to be the underscore. Yeah, the getters and setters are an interesting topic in Python specifically because there's a lot that you can do. Like you just saw, we were able to create like an instance variable basically from here, which you shouldn't be doing. That becomes too dangerous, that you might introduce bugs into your code if you're not following something that you specified before. But yeah, so if you are using something like you want to do something else to the age here, I'm just going to go back to age here. Okay, I think everything is correct here. Yeah, since Python doesn't have actual private variables, getters and setters are a little weird. But if you're using something like Java, Java heavily uses getters and setters when you're defining classes. You can set all these properties to private and then only allow people to grab them through the getters and setters. But typically in Python, you would have to call, like you're just creating a method that's called like get age, and that's technically your getter. There's some like libraries that offer decorators that do it for you, similar to here. But yeah, that's
yeah, so that was going to be my question. Like, if you got rid of those decorators and just had methods for get age and set age, it would do the exact same thing. So what's better about using the decorators?
That you don't have to do the get, and you can, like, for here it's a little more intuitive when you're using it. You're just saying alice.age and everything is handled in the background. So when you're saying alice.age equals whatever age you want to give her, then all the extra functionality that you want, like printing something or checking if that variable like meets a certain condition to do something else,
Yeah,
that will all fit into this.
that method said set age and had the same code, and I wrote alice.set age and passed it 153 in parentheses, it would do the same thing.
Yes,
Not
but if you have that set, it doesn't prevent anyone from just using the regular .age to set something, and that might break. Like if you have it relying on on that specific setter, and you want everyone to go through that setter, if someone's using your code, they might not know that they have to specifically use the setter and not just set the property like this. So this allows you to, this is like the most natural, like, oh, I need to set this property to something. So the setters allow you to override this most natural way of thinking, of assigning these variables.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I had the .set age, the person who is using this person class would have to know that they have to go through the set age instead of just assigning it like this.
Would you say that doing it the way that I didn't get the name of the person that just talked, but the way that he said, would you say that that's the wrong way to do it, or is that just a could be up to preference?
I don't think it's the wrong way, but if you want the person using your class to adhere at all times whenever they're setting this variable to have it like, you want every time this variable is set to have something happened, then doing it this way is better, because like I said, if someone doesn't know that that setter exists, like the like set age function exists, and they're trying to do it this way, it's going to break your code if you're relying on that other function.
So setters and getters are like checks and balances. Like it prevents people from taking a shortcut to assign values to things that might break later on. So you're just setting logic as sort of like guardrails to make sure they don't unknowingly break it.
Exactly. And the setting like certain variables as an underscore variable, it does technically, like you still have access to it technically, but no one usually uses those. It's kind of like commonly known that you're not going to use the underscore variables because that's typically used for like internal stuff. Jeremy, you were asking how often are getters and setters practically used in actual code. Leo, you use them designing APIs in the backend. That's great. Yeah, I can see like APIs are a good use case for them. Are you using Python for the APIs, Leo? Not sure if you're typing or talking. Java Spring. Okay, yeah, so that's where I've seen them the most when you're using Java. Java relies heavily on getters and setters because it allows, they actually have like proper private variables that you can set, and it makes a little more sense. In Python, I don't think I've seen it, but then again, I haven't seen too much like huge application code in Python, just because of like the teams that I was on. But the one large project, I don't think had getters and setters because it didn't really need to. It was just using more of the functions and didn't have a need for that specific functionality. But yeah, chances are, even though most of you are probably going to get jobs with the same languages and frameworks that we teach here, but chances are you're going to come across other languages and other frameworks as well. So this is more, getters and setters are more of an object-oriented idea versus like a Python specific thing. But yeah, if you want to have checks and balances, you can make your setters handle that stuff for you.
So I have a question. Maybe just if it's a plausible scenario. So because somebody technically could just do, whatever dot underscore age and set it to whatever they want, avoiding the checks that we put into the setter. Would it make sense at times to name the variable something that's not intuitive? So what if it was self dot underscore guess what this variable is?
Yeah.
And then it only makes sense to use the setter because the outside person doesn't know what that variable is.
For
Would
sure.
that work?
Yeah, that would definitely work. Yeah.
We would just have to keep track of so we know what it is.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if your code base is being touched by a lot of people, you might need to like specifically say like what is happening here, because if it won't be like an intuitive thing, then even the developers writing your class might need some direction. But yeah,
Okay.
that could work. I'm pretty sure certain classes already like they probably do that as well. Just make their own abbreviations for things and have it be all internal. Chase, I saw your message. One sec. So you found a succinct answer for why getters and setters are used. The getter and setter method gives you centralized control of how a certain field is initialized and provided to the client, which makes it easier to verify and debug. That is a good, concise description of what it is. Yeah. Way to provide log changes rather than make direct changes to variables. Yeah, I that's also a good use case, having like log statements here. So when you're creating or editing your variables, you will know when something happens. So yeah, I think that's a good use case as well. Other questions? All right. Well, that was it for lesson. I am going to go over these exercises. So you can ignore this. I think all of these are good. So these two are specifically object-oriented stuff. And then this one is just an algorithm challenge because today was a little light. So for app users 2, this is building off of yesterday's. You can read the requirements, but basically we're adding on to the user class that we created yesterday, adding what is it called? A method that will create a user post and add some more information based on that. For the contact list, we want to understand how instance variables and methods represent the characteristics and actions of an object. So you're creating a class pretty much that allows you to add contacts to a contacts list and find shared contacts and stuff like that. So I think this one's pretty cool too. Caesar cipher, this is just an algorithm challenge. You can do it in any language or both. Caesar ciphers, if you don't know, is a form of cryptography where like letters are replaced by another letter. So like they take the alphabet as it is and then they shift it by a certain amount of characters. And so like A becomes F and B becomes G. So something like that. Yeah, this is kind of fun too. Any questions on this or the lesson?